Beautiful. Laura, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here.
It's a pleasure to see you again and have this conversation. Now, just to our viewers, anyone who's tuning in, whether it's live, whether it's on recording, whether it's whatever platform you choose to join our conversation, I want to introduce you to Laura, who was a former paramedic. And if you're in Australia, we call them AMBOs. And she's turned a holistic healing coach and a driving force behind Reignite Your Soul. Now, Laura's gone from burnout to inner freedom through her personal self-discovery journey, which ignited her passion to help others in their struggles, in their journey as well. So without giving too much away, because I've heard parts of Laura's story and it is so inspiring and so beautiful and so powerful, I'm going to hand it over to Laura. So Laura, let me first start by asking you, take us on a journey of your life, where you came from and where you are now.
Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction. I'm so grateful to be here. So I am from Canada, as you had shared, and I grew up in a little small town that's in like cottage country. So beautiful lakes and nature and just a very beautiful place to be. And my family's middle-class family. My parents were actually both small business owners, and they encouraged me along my own path to finding out what I wanted to do after high school and stuff like that, to do something with a little bit more security than having a small business, because they found it very challenging, both financially and a lot of work, and not being able to be home with the kids, with me, my brother, and my sister. And
Sure.
so when I was choosing my career, it was like, okay, what is the secure things with the pension, with the benefits? What's going to give me some time off so I can still explore and do things that I love to do. And that kind of like led me down this path to, I actually did quite a few things before paramedic. I did power engineering technician, I went to school for, and then went for paramedic after that. But it was actually when I was working as a paramedic that I kind of got to this place where it's almost like an awakening, where like I woke up and I was like, what is my life? And I just felt very unfulfilled.
Mm.
I had kind of like the societal dream where I had a 6-year relationship with a lovely partner. We had a house together. We had 2 dogs. We had this cute little old farmhouse. And it was just kind of getting caught up in the cycles of overworking and burnout. And it really affected me emotionally. It affected my relationship. It affected my physical health. And everything kind of started crumbling in my life. And that was when my relationship ended, and I kind of was like completely shook, and it rattled me right to the core, because everything that I thought my life was going to be was now completely changed, because I had built my whole
Mm.
entire life around having this other person in my life and having all of these material possessions in my life. And so when that kind of happened, I remember having this moment where I was like, this is my chance to kind of create life for me, where the way that I want to. And that was kind of when I made that decision to go on that journey of self-exploration, really start uncovering who I was, what I wanted for my life. And now my life is completely radically transformed. And all of that kind of transpired around 2018 was when all of those big changes between 2016 and 2018. So it was a couple of years where it was unfolding. And that kind of inner exploration journey really led me down the path of hiring coaches and hiring mentors and doing some deep healing and shamanic work in Colombia, and sitting with different plant medicines like ayahuasca. And it really just expanded my mind to a completely new way of being able to live my life and
Mm.
what was possible. My family also, like, we never really had any like more like cultural or religious beliefs. It was pretty like, there wasn't really many values besides like being a good person and like what you put out kind of comes back to you. So I felt like it was kind of like a little bit bankrupt of some like more spiritual beliefs that I have now, that are really the driving force behind
Mm.
who I am and what I'm creating with my business, and even just the life that I'm living now. So it's been a very crazy, wild roller coaster of a journey the last like 6 years. And it's been absolutely life-changing.
Yeah, yeah, as life tends to be sometimes. I'm really interested to, I'd love I'd love for you to speak to the burnout, because I
Yeah.
really want to delve into that part of the burnout. What did that look like for you, and how did that manifest in your world?
Mhm. Yeah, well, the burnout for me, it was I was working a shift work job. I was working in two paramedic services, so it was part-time. So you kind of make your own schedule. However, there was like minimum requirements. There's a lot of kind of tiny rules that you had to maintain in order to
Mm,
be working with the service.
mm,
And for me, coming right out of college, it was like so driven into me to make money. You know, it was like make money so that you can do the things and all of this stuff. So it was like that was like at the forefront of everything. Like my values were really, the financial piece was very high on the values of what was important and what made me kind of a valuable person in society,
sure.
was being able to have that financial piece. And so that kind of like drove, that was like the driving force behind a lot of my actions. And it really came through when I was when I would overwork, then I would fall behind on all of the stuff at home, you know, like maintaining the house, like maintaining a relationship, maintaining like a relationship with my dogs and my cat, that being able to do my own self-care and working out and staying in that routine, or meal
Mm,
prepping and getting the stuff done that I needed to get done everywhere else. So it was really just like a misalignment of what my true core values are now. Like now my relationships really come first, my self-care comes first, and then all of those other things filter in through that. So it really just shifted kind of the whole way that I operate. And that was the biggest thing, was that I didn't have the tools to be
mm,
able to really be able to do that, you know, like I was led a lot by a lot of fear and a lot of insecurity and a lot of doing things to please other people
mm,
without. And so even like my career and all of those things, it was all to please like my family's expectations of who they thought that I should be. And my family had very good intentions with them sharing all of these things, because they really wanted me to have things that they didn't have necessarily when they were children, or even in their life now.
mm.
However, it just had me kind of always going outside of myself to receive my happiness or my fulfillment. And that is what caused the burnout, because it was never anything that could fulfill that internal satisfaction long term. It was always just these quick hits of things, which just kept me chasing and just kept me kind of going and going on that rat race of like, nothing's ever good enough, but I'm going to keep
Yeah.
doing more and more and more, because that's all I knew how to do.
Yeah, and that's
So,
that elusive, sorry. That's what I referred to yesterday in our quick conversation. That's that elusive it. You keep
yes.
chasing the it, and the it is never it. So at any point in that place of burnout, was there any point where you thought to yourself, maybe I could mask this with alcohol, maybe I could mask it with drugs? Before you started on your personal development story, was there a time in that space of burnout? Because I know I've reached burnout several times. Okay, and I know the mental state that you're in when you're in that space. So for you, was there any ever a time where you thought, if I just mask this with alcohol, if I just mask this with drugs, this will help?
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting with that, because it was almost like I would go to my work as that outlet. So it just
Mm,
kept feeding that cycle. I would go to food. Food was a big one. I would go to my relationships. Um, and there was a point as well where I smoked a lot of weed to be able to numb kind of those
mm,
pieces. There was one point in my journey as well where I even went to meditation, where it was all escapism. You
yeah,
know, all of these little things that I thought that I was doing. And also working out was a big one. I would overwork my body, and knowing what I know now, it's like my nervous system was so like
yeah,
high strung that it really needed the relaxation pieces. Like now I'm loving yoga, right? And
yeah,
so it was like I would do hard workouts and go to the gym and really push myself, which was really exacerbating all of the issues that I was experiencing.
yeah.
But that was really what I knew as healthy, right? So, and even like coffee and stimulants and everything like that, like all of these things that I would go to kind of keep me going, that they were
Mm,
keeping me going, but I didn't realize the actual effects that they were taking on my body and the toll that they were going to take long term. When my physical body started breaking down, I had a lot of digestive issues. My libido completely was was gone, just hormonally. I was very like agitated, and I would go from like being completely fine to just like blowing up on my partner. And it was just like a very unstable kind of environment. And
Yeah.
I remember laughing sometimes. We'd be in like an argument and I would be like yelling, and I would just start laughing because I wouldn't even remember like what I was yelling about.
Yeah.
Like it just seems so like I was so far away from who I knew I was, but I didn't even know how I got there. And I just woke up and I was like, man, this is not working for me and I don't know how to change it.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. Yeah. So moving on from that, I get a really clear picture of where you're at. So there, at times in life, we all come to a fork in the road. We all
Yeah.
come to this place where we decide, we make this decision, or we make this choice of whether to go this way or that way. So what I'm getting at is, what was that turning point for you? What was that moment for you where you sat back and you went, this isn't for me. This isn't where I see my life going. I'm meant for more than this. What was that moment for you? Like, what happened? What clicked in your brain that caused you to move away from the self-destructive behavior and onto this path of self-discovery, awareness, and healing?
Yeah, and I know the exact moment as well, Noelle. So my mom, she was using health and wellness products from a network marketing company. And so I started using those products because they're all Eastern cultural Ayurvedic herbs. And they were really great to help me to manage my stress and the emotional pieces and support my nervous system. And so she had invited me to an event, and anything to do with network marketing, it's very personal development oriented. And so she invited me the year previous, and I said I'd go, and then I bailed on her last minute. I was like, I have to work. It just wasn't something that I was excited about. And then that following year, she invited me again, and I just out of guilt said yes. And it was also in Las Vegas. So I was like, I'm going to go to this event mainly to please my mom. And I went to that event, and it was about like 15,000 people in this room. Everybody was just so excited, so happy about life. Like high-fiving people, hugging people. And Tony Robbins was at that event. And so Tony Robbins was there and did like a 3-hour workshop for all of us. And I remember being at the very end of that, like I'm like bawling my eyes out, and I'm like a super like, in the past, now I cry all the time, but in the past I was super like closed down, and like it was very hard for me to access my emotions. So for me to be in a room full of strangers, literally bawling my eyes out, hugging strangers, I was like, I don't know what this is, but like I needed this. Like I needed this. Like it felt so good. And it was that moment that really changed my life, because it was a room full of entrepreneurs, like they had vision. They knew what they wanted to do with their life. They wanted to contribute. They wanted to give back. They wanted to live a limitless life where they didn't have to choose, like they didn't have to choose this or that. They could really say, I want both of these, and not doing it from like a selfish or materialistic or greedy way. It was really coming from like a soulful place. And that was really that turning point where I said to my mom, like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it. And that was when I went on that journey of wanting to live a life that I didn't need a vacation from. And then it was just like a slowly chipping away at all of these old patterns and programs and all of these things that kind of kept me locked in this box of feeling trapped and not knowing why, of all of these old stories and beliefs that I kind of picked up over my life, and really started reprogramming them into beliefs and stories and ways of being that really supported who I was and where I saw myself going. So that was definitely the turning point for me, for sure.
Beautiful. So this is something that I work a lot with my clients, is mindset. And I truly believe, as you just said, or as you just started to indicate, it just literally takes a choice. And there's something magical that happens in the brain when you decide, when you make that choice, that the road ahead starts to sort of unfold. So obviously on that road to your self-recovery and self-healing and journey, there would have been obstacles. So this is a two-part question. And I'm trying to fit in as much as I can in the short time we have, because I love what you have to say.
Thank you.
Obviously, there's obstacles along the way, as there is with anyone's, life path, life journey. there'd be
Yeah.
obstacles. What were they? How did you overcome them?
Yeah, there was many obstacles. A lot of what I do now is on social media. And I love using social media as a platform to really connect with a wide array of people. A lot of my clients come from social media. A lot of my best friends, actually, some of them I haven't even met in person yet. And we just connect so well. And over the last couple of years, we haven't even got to see each other in person. And it's a really incredible way. And for me, one of the biggest kind of challenges was being able to feel safe enough to be able to put myself out there and feel confident being able to do that, because I was always so afraid of judgment of others, or also the fear of failure, you know, putting myself out there and then failing and then be like, oh my gosh, well, what are people going to think, you know? And so those were some definite big things that kind of happened that I had to keep pushing through. Off the top of my mind, there weren't any massive kind of big pieces that were like these massive challenges. I feel like after I kind of went on that initial journey, after I quit my paramedic job and I went traveling for a while, ended up in Colombia and did some plant medicine ceremonies. That experience kind of like opened me up so much to like, it was almost like something shifted in my brain where actually this is an interesting story that I'll share. In that ceremony, actually, I remember Mother Ayahuasca kind of like being in my ear, being like, you can be, do, or have anything you want in life. And I'm like arguing with her. I'm like, no, you can't. Like, you can't. I'm like, there's rules. Like, you can't. And she's like, no, you can. And she like, whatever, like the ceremony kept going on and it kept chipping away at that belief. And I remember it felt like something literally left me, Noelle. Like it felt like this energy left me. And I was like, oh my God, I can do whatever I want. I can be whoever I want, and I can have anything that I want. It's all abundant here in this universe, in this life. And if other people can do it and like achieve this and feel that way, then why not me? And so that was like a huge thing that like opened things up. So when stuff came up in my life after that, it wasn't that I ever felt so defeated that I would never get through it. It was more of like, okay, this is coming up. Okay, like what are some ways that I can get around this? Or what are some creative ways that I can like move through this? And like, it's been a long journey, like so much learning over the last few years since that happened. That was 2018. So 5 years ago, that it's been like this, like constant navigation of things that I know it's going to continue. But that was definitely one of those moments where that happened. So that was kind of some things, but yeah, I'd say like the fear of judgment when it comes to being on social media and really putting myself out there and feeling confident in what I'm doing as like being a coach and stuff like that as well. I think there's a lot of imposter syndrome that kind of came through where I was like, oh my gosh, I need like a huge medical degree to be able to be talking about this stuff. I need like this and I need that. And I was just like, no, like I know what I'm doing, and it transformed my life so much drastically. And it's transforming my client's life as well in like massive, amazing ways. So whatever it is, it's working, right? So continue doing that and continue sharing that abundance with others.
Yeah, beautiful. There is so much there that I want to flesh out and unpack, and we're going to have to do another series. There is so much there.
So much. Yeah.
I really want to start to take a point and unpack that because it's so powerful.
Thank you.
In that journey of self-discovery, what did you learn about yourself?
Oh my gosh. I feel like a completely new person. It's absolutely insane. Like I now know what is me and what is coming from outside of me based on what my body is feeling. You know, like I know instantly when things aren't feeling aligned. And I have the ability now to be able to actually have the confidence to say no to things that don't feel aligned, and also be able to have the confidence to say yes to knowing that I am a person that can take that next step into creating whatever it is that I want to create. So I think the biggest thing that I gained on the journey was definitely that confidence. And I think with that confidence comes that inner freedom, right? Like that freedom, knowing that anything that is something that's really on my heart or my soul that I am feeling called to create, or something that I want to do, or a version of myself that I want to become, like I know that that's possible, because it wouldn't be coming to me if it wasn't possible. So I think those are probably the two biggest things, would be confidence and that inner freedom. with this journey for sure. Yeah.
I love that version of yourself. Again, another one I want to put a pin in and unpack. Love that, because you can call your future self into the present, but we're not going to go deeply into that just yet. Oh my God, there's so much there. Because I noticed when you sent me through your bio yesterday, you've studied Reiki.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I became a master in pranic healing, which is very similar modality, very similar. So let's earmark that and let's talk about that in another session. The
That
energy.
sounds good.
I want to talk about the energy behind whatever decision you make, the energy behind calling in whatever it is that you desire, right? So the physical is just what you see in the 3D world after you've done the work in the 5D etheric world. Okay? Yeah, anyway, put a pin in that, earmark it. I'm coming back to that with you. Love that. One final question that I'm going to ask all my guests when they come on is, if you had the opportunity, if you had the chance to travel back along your timeline and you meet up with your younger 8-year-old or 12-year-old self, whatever that age is, wherever that age was that you needed to hear or needed the most encouragement, and I'm going to let your subconscious mind choose the age, but about 8 or 12, sit down with them, look them in the eyes. What's the advice you're giving them now?
I would love her to know that she is just so loved and so perfect as she is, and that her ideas matter and the things that she wants matters. I feel like there was a lot of I moved schools when I was in grade 3, and after that it really, like, there was a lot of bullying and stuff that happened that really affected me. And even my parents, like, just projecting kind of their desires that maybe they didn't have onto me, it always kind of had me, like I said, going outside of myself. So if I could go back to that 8 or 12-year-old version, I would just want her to know that all of these little pieces that she has inside of her that maybe other people aren't listening to or acknowledging, that those pieces are very valid, and to, like, hang on to them and really know that they are so important with your future and your vision of where you're headed.
That's beautiful. I can feel her changing already. I love that. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we've come to the end, and I could talk to you for hours and hours.
I know, me too.
So much more that we need to unpack in this conversation that is going to help the greater consciousness out there, or the global consciousness. Would you be willing to come back?
I would love to come back, Noelle. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Laura, any last words of encouragement to anyone listening?
I think the same advice as I would have given my 8 to 12-year-old self, not to doubt yourself, and to really, like, continue making those decisions for yourself and for where you see you want to go, because it's so valid. You know, like, what you want matters, and it's possible. It's possible for all of us to be able to create it, and to have patience with yourself along the journey, because it's not going to happen overnight. I feel like there's a lot of stuff where we want this, like, quick reward for things, and we can maybe get discouraged or feel bad that it's not happening quick enough. But really, in the grand scheme of things, like, we're so divinely guided with everything, and there's a course of direction for our life that we'll never ever fully understand as we're in this human form, and everything's happening perfectly, exactly as it's meant to for all of us.
And that's a whole other session as well. I love it. Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your beautiful wisdom as well. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Noelle, for having me and for hosting this amazing video series and podcast series. I just feel like so many people are going to value from it. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.